Welcome to the best movie category of the R Anime Awards. This category celebrates the visually stunning and narratively compelling anime films of the year. From action packed adventures to heartwarming coming of age stories, these movies have captured the hearts and imaginations of anime fans worldwide. So let's take a look at the nominees and see who will take home the top prize. Here are your nominees for Best Movie of 2022.
タチの悪い冗談悪夢よ。
じゃあさ逃げちまうか。
時間がすべてのものから取り残されていく。
言うのかっこいい。
よく参加したな。
押して引いて泣いちゃって恋のバケーション。私たちはもう舞台の上。取るほどしみる。わかる。私たちすっかり大人になりましたな。お互いしも。
And your jury winner for Best Movie is Revue Starlight, the movie. And the public chose Jujutsu Kaisen 0.
Joining me to talk about movies is Phenom Sage,
Ayo.
returning guest, one that we are happy to have back, and Orphan from the jury.
Hi.
Hello. One note before we start: be sure you say review and not review, because I said that in video once. Oh my god, I couldn't believe how many. I usually don't get like hate comments, but everyone's like review. But
Sorry,
anyway.
guys, I'm still pronouncing it Revue.
No,
You
it should
can hate
be,
me
I'm
if you
pretty
want. Oh, okay.
sure. But regardless, what do you think of this jury winner?
So I will say this: when I was offered the category of what I wanted to, join in on for this year's awards, I kind of just on a whim immediately as soon as I saw it, I went for Movie of the Year because of Revue Starlight, the movie. And it's not just because I love this movie, just absolutely to death, but it also just in my heart of hearts, it felt like something that would be prime our anime jury sweep material. And as soon as I saw that it won, I was like, I knew it. I goddamn knew it. Yeah, guys, it's a masterpiece. We're looking at a masterpiece right now.
Now, I felt the same way. I had the opportunity to watch this at a convention, and it was amazing, especially with the ambiance. But at the end of the day, it's kind of a retelling of the series. What exactly makes it a masterpiece from both of you?
You think it's a retelling?
That's
an interesting conversation in itself.
Is it? Because it covers a lot of the same themes. It covers the same characters and their same arcs. Even Banana goes through her thing. It really felt like a retread, or it could be argued as one. I'd like to hear the other side.
I would say, not to like completely take over, feel free to stop me and interject whenever, but I would say that more than a retelling, I would say it's a continuation of a lot of the characters' conflicts and things that they're dealing with in the series. Like, if you just analyze or look deeply at everything that these characters are going through in the movie, it's just such a perfect continuation of the things that they're dealing with in the series in a way where this movie becomes just such a perfect conclusion for all of the characters. Even I will say this, I noticed that it's not that like it's relatively not that high for the public. I'm guessing a lot of people just didn't watch it. And I think a lot of people maybe didn't watch it. I know the series has like its own little like diehard fan base, but I know a lot of people, including myself, didn't love the series that much. And this is coming from someone who felt that way. I think the movie kind of like builds on that series in such an incredible way that it kind of justifies the existence of the series.
Oh, so almost like a disappearance in Haruhi.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah, exactly
even
like
though
that.
Haruhi obviously stands on its own, but, I guess more like an Endless Eight kind of thing.
Okay, I haven't seen Haruhi, but like based on everything I hear about like the series compared to the movie, I feel like that is a very good example and comparison.
Was that something that you guys talked about, Orphan?
Yeah, like when it comes to Review Starlight, it was from the start clear favorite for the jurors in the category. And we were pretty sure that if it's not gonna, like, it was basically either Starlight or maybe Inuo if it comes. And at time, even though it was quite close, but not super close, I'd say. Continuing your thought about similarities to the series and how the movie works compared to the series, I feel like it almost works in reverse to everything that happens in the series. It's built on what's happened, and I don't know if I should tell this because it's kind of a spoiler, but not really if you haven't seen either series or movie. But a lot of things played out almost in reverse to how they played out in the series. And it makes sense from the character's perspective and from what was established originally and how it moves character forward and how the entire movie is like when the series was really conclusive. It has quite conclusive ending where it doesn't need like that much of continuation, even though it's a media mix project. There are like game exists and all the other stuff like stage plays and so on. But at the same time, it's quite conclusive in its narrative. But then the movie comes out and looks back on all of it, and at the same time ask question what comes after it, what comes next, and how characters have to deal with it.
Well,
And
that's
build
what's so
the
genius
entire-
about it. Sorry
that,
for
and,
interrupting.
build the entire spectacle around it in the same style as the TV series did, but in more cinematic fashion.
Yeah, I completely agree that like the series has a conclusive ending, and yet the movie almost right from the very beginning it like asks this question again. I will not get into spoilers, but like it asks this question at the beginning of the movie, and it explores that question over the movie where right from the beginning you're kind of it justifies its own existence as a continuation and as a sequel to all of these characters. And it makes you realize, oh wait, there are tons of things left to explore with these characters and like their relationships that they had in the series, and how a lot of those things aren't actually resolved. Things need to be resolved and they need to be pushed forward, so to speak. So I definitely agree with that.
Now, Orphan, you mentioned that it was kind of a toss-up between whether or not Rayview would take the win as opposed to Inuo. And it's kind of interesting because when you don't really think about it, or maybe you do think about it, but Rayview is very much music focused as well as Inuo.
This year in general, like interesting because there were some few other music focused movies that didn't make a cut, but like we discussed that as well. You have like some sort of, I don't know, new trend re-emerging about the anime
Or-
musicals or something like that.
Well, because
I
last
don't
year we had
know.
Belle too, huh?
Like we have a lot of nominees with a lot of music focus. we have something like Dozens of North as well, and to the same degree, you have audio-visual focus, big part of something like even Girls in Panzer and Aria as well, to certain point, because it creates certain atmosphere that was always used with its musical style. But you know, it surprise you how much it music focused, because when you, despite the fact that for Yuasa it's not something completely new, like if someone doesn't know, is the Masaaki Yuasa movie, his latest movie, and
Yeah.
maybe the last one, because he like not retiring, like going into hiatus for
He's
now
stepping back.
from
He's
the
stepping
direct.
back.
Yeah, so we don't know, but it even from the advertisement, you didn't really know how much this movie gonna be music focused. Like just from the middle portion of the movie, it's almost turns into Revue Starlight to a degree. With it's has like music number after music number after music number, and it goes on and on and on, and it's especially well animated. It's definitely the most well produced movie in the category, even like compared to Starlight. It's moves just non-stop pretty much, like all the dance scenes, all the lip syncs, they put a lot of emphasis on lip sync of the characters, and all just in animation throughout the entire scene is just incredible on an entirely different level, and it's the most raw display of Yuasa talent from the last maybe even a decade or so, because you have not seen him do, because in the last few his works he became more, I'm not calling mainstream, kind of mainstream, but
More accessible.
more accessible.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, when you
And this
compare
movie
something to,
kind
like,
of
say,
returned to it and even kind of asked the question about it. This movie is quite thematically rich as well. It's not just a spectacle that you just watch for like cool music numbers, cool animation, and so on. It's really something you have to like think about what it's trying to, what the intent was behind the movie, the story it's trying to tell about, not just like the historical time that it happened, like it happened after like Heike era, after like it's kind of not the sequel to Heike Monogatari because it happened like 200 years later, but at the same time, but also how it relates to a modern art and a modern, like generally the way how people approach the art, and how censorship sometimes just restricts the artist and don't allow them to express themselves as they want, and how and what does it mean it's to achieve success, and where like even if you're gonna get to the top, is it worth to get into the top as well, like something like that. I don't want to talk a lot because there's a lot of spoilers in this movie as well, but it's really something you have to watch for yourself, not just for its incredible production values, but also for its just
thematic
the level
impact.
of thought put in it as well.
Yuasa
it's-
is really usually pretty good with melding the, aesthetic and visuals and, sensory overload, but also you're getting really thematically, narratively rich material alongside it.
It's definitely, I mean, coming from Yuasa, you understand that it's going to be like a totally unique experience that you're not going to have anywhere else. I mean, like Orphan was saying, it's a really great point, and I'm really glad you pointed it out that this piece of work, is a weird meld between modern and not. So like it's set in kind of like ancient Japan, right? Like there's samurai and stuff like that. But when the main character like plays his music, he uses like a shamisen, like an electric guitar, and I'm
Yeah,
pretty
his
sure there
approach
is
to
electric
music is
guitar.
really modern. It's becomes a rock opera from a certain point. So the music it played, it blends old and new, and it's kind of develops and expands on some ideas during like every new performance, like adds something on top of it.
Sung by the wonderful Abu-chan of Queen Bee, by the way, who did the Dororo opening, if you guys
Hell
remember.
yeah.
Yeah, and the voice is really distinct and it's really
Oh my
fits.
god! Like when they
everything
get to
that
that whale
this movie is
performance,
doing.
like ridiculous. It's you have to see it. But to avoid holding too long on Inuo, let's talk about our public winner, Jujutsu Kaisen, real quick. I know you
Let's
have.
let's brush past this Jujutsu Kaisen thing real quick.
No, because here's the thing, right? Big properties like Jujutsu Kaisen, it's sometimes a toss up, right? Because sometimes people go see the movie just because it's part of the property, and sometimes the movie is actually like really good, right? And from all of that I've heard, Jujutsu Kaisen 0 is actually like a pretty great entry in the Jujutsu Kaisen franchise. Would you say that is the case, Orphan?
I'd say yes and no. It has a standalone story that's pretty understandable, pretty straightforward, and like it generally well made. So it has like satisfying conclusion to it. But at the same time, it adds some sort of elements that not that understandable. Like it just like this the last third of the movie is kind of the Avengers moment when there are a lot of different characters you know nothing about pretty much. Even if you have seen the series, you know who they are and what roles they play. But they kind of appear here to have some cool action set piece and cool moment to showcase, like look this character, you've seen the series. So for people who haven't seen, they just accept it like, yeah, cool action scenes, and that's about it. But there's not much else to it. And because of that, I'd say that it's like worked both ways. It works as standalone feature you can just watch and enjoy for like straightforward action-packed story, and at the same time it works as something that some parts of it, considering certain characters, they are not even related to what happened in the first season that aired. It's related to some later events that's gonna be adapted in the future.
Okay, so like a lot of setup, a lot of like anticipation.
Yeah, there's some setup for some different things. Like the main character as well, it's completely different from the main series. And he does not appear in the first season, but he's supposedly gonna appear sometime later, as far as I heard. But I haven't read the manga, so I cannot say for sure. And but it's not gonna like hinder your enjoyment from the movie. You can just enjoy it for what it is.
That's how most shonen movies usually go. You can kind of just walk in and walk out.
And interestingly enough, it's not filler this time. It's actually a real prequel.
This is like the tendency you have in the recent years for a lot of movies.
Yeah.
They're not just like there are still spin-off movies that comes out, like One Piece Red, for example. But at the same time, One Piece Red still plays out with this certain character that's important in the main series, and they build the movie around it, like Shanks. It was a big character in One Piece who has some reveals in this movie, as far as I heard. But it's still not exactly canon movie. Like, but for shonens, you have something like Kimetsu no Yaiba that not exactly started the trend, but kind of continued this trend of continuation of successful IP in the movie theater.
I think it did.
And then it became the most successful like movie of all time. It was the highest grossing movie of all time.
Yeah, as we can see from the endless news posts on Reddit about Kimetsu no Yaiba's beat out Spirited
and Jujutsu
Away,
Kaisen became like second I seen after like One Piece Red or something. So you have shonen movies basically dominating the box office right now in Japan. So it works.
Now, while it's interesting that Jujutsu Kaisen is prequel, we also have a sequel in second place for the public, meaning Eurocamp. Phenom, did you get to watch the season 1 of Eurocamp?
I still haven't. I'm so sorry, man. I
Oh,
know I'm
okay.
letting you down with this.
No, that's fine. Okay.
I did. From what I've seen of the movie, I am unbelievably interested. I don't even know what's spoiler to talk about and what's not, but like from screenshots I've seen, just what they're doing with like the timeline of events and like where the characters are now is just so cool to me from the outside.
Well, see, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. So, say I told you that a Bochi the Rock movie is coming out, right?
Yeah.
And it's them 7 years into the future.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's
What-
just so appealing to me. Like I love
is.
stories that are able to like take that. Like most stories, like it's weird to say, but most stories don't dare to like take pre-existing established characters and just age them up into adults or like I don't know how old they are, but I'm assuming they're like near adults and like just explore. I'm guessing like again, I'm sorry for not having any context on this, but I'm guessing they like explore an entirely new aspect of like what their lives are like as adults and like how they're still incorporating their hobbies and their relationships and all that as adults, and like that's just so goddamn cool to me, man.
Orphan, do you think that movie does what he's saying?
It
Uh-oh.
certainly tries to do it.
It tries.
It's interesting premise because you usually, like you already talked about, you usually don't see something like that, especially in the slice of life movies.
Well, I
when
see
they,
another one. I see another
when
one
they
here.
aged
Arya
up the
does
characters and say what's gonna happen after they finish their high school, what they're gonna do. And this movie tries to attempt to answer this question. It showcase the characters that already have certain jobs, that they have already certain occupations, and how they gonna join together again for their usual camping experiences. And it kind of tries to turn itself into working drama more than your typical Eurocamp slice of life, visiting places and like camping. Generally.
You're right. There's a lot of like bureaucracy and like having to deal with regulations and stuff, and that's not exactly the same spirit as the original show, huh?
Yes, but
I
at the
think that
same
can still work.
time, it doesn't dwell too much into it. It kind of tries to go in this direction. It builds the story around it, like the certain place they have to reorganize this place to make it to make a new campsite from it. And the most of the movie takes place in this one location. Like they sometimes like visit like their homes or something else, but mostly just surrounding around this one location and some issues that emerge from them trying to deal with that. And then it kind of tries to combine appealing parts of Eurocamp and some typical working drama stories, especially like in the later half of the movie. It's kind of trying to be slightly more dramatic with it, but then it not doing a pretty convincing job with its like dramatic bits. And another issue with this movie that visually you can see like idea that it's gonna be a movie from the series you watch, and it doesn't really look that different from what you've already seen in the original series, and it doesn't have that much of variety of locations and places as that was the part of the appeal of the main series as well, because they visiting like different places, but here they mostly just in one place that they trying to renovate, and that's about it. This is another disappointed aspect of this movie for us. This is why
movie
it's
sucks?
not as high for jurors as it was, even like compared to some TV series, compared to some people like the first season of Eurocamp, the movie. Like some people haven't seen the second season, some people have seen it. You can watch this movie just after the first season because там like 2 characters that appeared, but that doesn't really matter. And from the second season, and then they were kind of disappointed with it as well.
Wilson, what's going on here? I thought this movie was amazing.
Hey, okay. It's at the it this movie is what Jujutsu Kaisen 0 is to slice of life fans. Okay, it's just you get to see Rin in a business suit.
Well, I'm interested in what your take is because I know you're a huge fan of it. Like, do you agree with these criticisms?
I mean, I do agree. Actually, it does not. It takes a lot of it leaves out a lot of the appeal of the original series, as Orphan stated. It really is a sort of kind of interesting decision to go with. However, at the end of the day, if you do like Eurocamp and you like the characters, they do manage to try to show.
We're really we're kind of stretching it a bit.
the realities of adulthood.
I feel like
right?
this needs to be cut.
No, because that's one thing I can really appreciate about the show is that me speaking as someone who just turned 30 last year, a lot of the struggles that they go through in terms of having to actually schedule time to meet up and not being able to see each other and not being able to completely do their hobby all the time because they're so busy with work and with other obligations. That's something that's not really shown all the time in anime, and it's really nice to see some aspect of adulthood being on display here.
It kind of reminds me of the Shirobako movie a little bit with
Yeah.
what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. The final thing I want to talk about is every of one of these movies on here I recognize, right? So like Arya, masterpiece. It's literally called Arya.
Literally
the Masterpiece
Arya
for
the
last-
Masterpiece. Yeah.
So and then obviously Girls in Panzer is kind of an old show, but they've done it's like 7 movies now. So I recognize every name on here except for
Technically
dozens
only
of
like 4 or so, like their film and like 3, the main one that like they still come out because like only like 3 came out and then they're gonna
then kind of
continue for
paused,
like
yeah.
5 years or so.
5 years. That's a lot of Girls in Panzer. But the thing is, the only movie I don't recognize on here is Dozens of Norths. I looked at this. I have no idea whatsoever what it is.
Yeah, what is this? What's going on
So
here?
I found some nice screenshots, and it looks like crazy. Like I've never seen anything like this. Would you guys, or would Orphan, would you mind just kind of illuminating exactly what it is and why? A movie I've never heard of getting third. Can you talk about that real quick?
Dozens of Norths is an interesting experience like no other in the category, despite the fact that category already has some incredible, like, standout visual works. But Dozens of Norths is different from any of them because, first of all, it doesn't really have a story, and it doesn't really have characters, and it doesn't have any dialogue as well. So just from this description alone, you understand how different it is from everything else.
Yeah, I'm looking at these
Because
screenshots.
usually
This
you
looks
look
insane.
in the like general media something that should have a story or should have characters or should have it has themes, definitely, and it has music that it used throughout, and it's not the music that was made specifically for the movie. It was pre-existing musical pieces that were specifically put like
Public domain stuff.
not exactly. I don't. It's from a certain composer. If I
Okay.
wanna,
But it's
Like-
as if you took like an album and it's
Yeah.
not particularly made for anything, but you kind of made your work around it.
Or we're doing like Interstellar 9999 here. Or
yeah,
something.
that kind of thing.
yeah,
this
something
looks
like
awesome.
that. It's a collection of. You can almost call it collection of state of mind of the author. Like Koji Yamamura is special director, like of one of his kind. He is not a really well known for general audience. So the music was by William Breck. Yeah, I don't know how you pronounce it, Brecker or Brecker. I don't know how to pronounce his name. But Koji Imamura, he was already he's like an indie director who made incredible shorts for that already were award winning on some occasions. I don't remember exactly, but something even like from international festivals, he was winning certain stuff. And this movie as well, it was at least mentioned on some of the like less known like festival stuff as well. And it's a collection of small, not like really small, but around like 5-6 minutes long images with music and with certain lines of not dialogue but thoughts put on screen. He called these places, different places, north, and you go through this and experiencing some incredible art and sometimes quite incredible animation as well, but it doesn't move as much. It used some unconventional animation techniques that you usually don't see as often in the mainstream movies or TV series, but it's more known for some like European animation. And this how this movie goes. It's around hour-long trip, you could say it like that, which kinda his own personal experiences and all personal gripes for everything that happened with him and what he thought and what he look around himself after Fukushima earthquake that happened in 2011. This is a big event in Japan that affect a lot of people, and Yamamura as well. And he wanted to somehow make an artistic expression from his own experiences, his own thoughts about what happened after this event. And as such, it's really hard. Sometimes it's hard to watch. It's hard to understand what all of it means, even if it means something at all. But at the same time, when you watch it, you either gonna be completely alienated from it and just say, I don't get it. What the point? There is no story. There is no characters. This is the music and some images, and they sometimes move, sometimes they don't. But at the same time, you can just be immersed into it and look at these images and get something from it and get some sort of emotional response from all of it. So it's really hard to explain. It's really hard to talk about. It's something you have to see and decide for yourself if it's your thing. But for jurors, it was a weird experience that was quite controversial as well. But by the end of it, it managed to resonate with more people. Some people were completely saying, I don't get it, just straight up. I don't get it. I don't see much in it. But some people were, me included, were looking at this and thinking, this is definitely worth your time.
I see. I mean, that sounds really interesting. I'm always interested in these sort of abstract expressions of like pure emotion, right? Of just kind of spilling everything you have forth onto the page and then letting others interpret through their own lens and exactly what's going on. It kind of reminds me in an art housey way, like I don't know how apt this comparison is, but something like Angel's Egg, right? Except of course even less concrete.
I'd say even Angel's Egg's much more.
Exactly. Angel's Egg actually has like characters and movement and a plot.
Yeah, because in Angel's Egg there's characters at least, and there is one place, and it's easier to, and with some semblance of the story. in Angel's Egg. Here, it's basically introduce you to this world which you know nothing about, and it goes through different places, and some visual motifs go through all of these places, and some people move through these places, but they don't talk. You just see a text on screen appeared before every of the different location you visit, and in this certain location something's going on.
Oh, like
Every
Dark
time it's
Souls
something
levels.
different, but at the same time it's it has some similarities in terms of what it's trying to show it and what themes it's trying to tackle with the imagery it presents to you.
Well, Phenom, judging based on this description and these like really resonating, at least to me, screenshots, what do you think about this?
I think, if I'm being completely honest, I probably wouldn't like this film too much. I
Hey,
can't
and
lie.
that's perfectly fine, right?
No,
'Cause
that's perfectly fine.
I think
it's
part of the
definitely-
value of this film is that it is able to produce this sort of like polarizing reaction.
No, I completely agree. I love that films like this exist, where it's like, it's not Jujutsu Kaisen. You go in, you walk out, and everybody had a good time. Like, this is something that definitely is trying to speak more directly to specific people and specific preferences in filmmaking, and I love that. I definitely love that.
Well, I don't think you can just like dismiss Jujutsu Kaisen like that.
No,
Some
that's
people
not what I
enjoy
meant.
Jujutsu
That's not
Kaisen,
what I
some
meant.
people
That's not what I
don't
meant.
enjoy. Some people can enjoy Jujutsu Kaisen and something like Dozens of Nords. It doesn't. I don't feel like it's completely like
I
there
think
is
we can
like two
agree.
extremes to it.
I think we can agree that Jujutsu Kaisen Zero is a little bit more accessible than Dozens
It's
of Nords.
definitely more accessible. There is it's true.
That's
But
definitely
at the
not what I
same
meant,
time,
though. I'm not
if
hating
you-
on
if you
Jujutsu
talk
Kaisen
from
Zero.
accessibility, this is Dozens of North is definitely the less accessible movie in the category. But at the same time, from the personal standpoint, people enjoy different things, and they sometimes can rediscover something new and watch something they never thought they're gonna like.
Yeah.
But that's what's happened sometimes.
And that's exactly why we have this sort of two-tiered system here at the awards. So everyone watching, hey, if you haven't seen Jujutsu Kaisen and you like the more artsy stuff, maybe give Zero a try. And
if you want something more accessible compared to Dozens of North, you definitely you should watch Girls from the Other Side, because this movie has as well really out of the world art style like no other, but at the same time its story more approachable, especially like even compared to the short, because the short was first of all it was like 10 minutes long or so, and it didn't have any dialogue. But this time they actually add dialogue and they add story and made it to some people worse because of that. But this is not the issue. Generally, it's just something, if you want something that looks completely different out of the world, but at the same time, it's understandable, it has story, it has characters, it has themes, all of that. And it's, so this is the movie you want to check out like more than something like Dozens of Nords.
I think Yuasa is pretty good with that too, where, if you are looking for something more unique, but it still has like a core that, is easy to relate to and easy to connect to. Again, I haven't seen Inuo, but
yeah,
just
Inuo as
good
well.
stuff.
Inuo, despite the fact that Inuo was kind of about the time period that not really that well known for general audience, especially for the Western audience. It's about like ancient Japan, so most people just don't get it. A lot of like references and who are these like shoguns and this war that happened, Heike War, what all of this mean. But general story about two guys who just want to make music, and they make this music, and this music is really cool and it's really fun to look at. So
Yeah.
Well, and this is just like my own personal curiosity, but Nikuko was this year, right? I think it won
Yeah,
in a
Nikuko was
different.
this year. I wanted to talk about like certain movies that didn't make a cut, but you just didn't mention it at all. So
Yeah,
how
I
you
mean,
gonna talk?
it's a little hard to, but it was exactly why didn't it make the cut? I mean, public
Nikuko,
probably, right?
we
Like
watched
it probably
it.
gets in above every. Wait. Is the bottom four of the jury literally just every public nomination?
Yeah, like it was, um, except for Starlight, which
Oh,
was
okay.
5 nominations from
I
public,
see.
and Starlight won. So for like Nikuko, most people were disappointed with um, how it presents its main character and how it presents its story, especially when it comes to pacing of its story. Some people were really put off by the way it portrayed its Nikuko herself. The way she was basically a cartoon character, which was super exaggerated, and it felt almost like they went too far with her. Some people were okay with her. For me personally, the last half of the movie, the last like part of the movie was the worst because it just dumps plot on you in the
Oh
most
no.
how should I put it, blatant way possible, when it just here's flashback of your main character, which we didn't get before, but he just dumps it on you and just dumps character development on this character in
Oh,
like
I hate
10
that.
minutes
Yeah.
time, and we just have to accept it, and here is your ending, be happy.
Mhm.
This is the biggest gripe like for me. Some people didn't like some visual choices as well, but this is how it went in the
I see.
discussion.
I was surprised. You mentioned it very briefly. I was surprised that One Piece didn't make it anywhere in here. I'm guessing I
One
know I
Piece
haven't
was
seen it, but I heard that there
eligible.
was some like divisive elements to it that I think not everybody loved it. I
One Piece
haven't
is
seen
gonna
it
be
yet.
eligible next year, but
Oh, okay.
it wasn't available this year.
Got it.
This is
Got it.
why.
The only thing I know about One Piece is that the theme song keeps from One Piece Red keeps coming up on my Spotify, and it's like a fucking banger. So
Yeah, no, all the music from what I've heard. I've only listened to some of the songs, but I was curious like why that didn't make it in. What are the like eligibility things? Like it has to have like a release or something?
yeah, it has to have a widespread release, meaning not just in theaters,
Like actual like
And
Blu-ray
subs.
available.
Blu-ray, or some like in some kind of
Some
circumstance.
movies just didn't get any
Like
subs.
able to like torrent online or
Like
Basically,
for
something.
example, this year was
Got it.
Eureka 7 movie that came out last year, and it received subs basically months before, like before it possible to nominate it. And this is why we considered it as well, but it didn't make a cut as well.
Got it.
So sometimes it happens like movies from 2 years ago sometimes receive subs, and we considering this movie as well. So this is how it goes.
No, that makes sense.
and I mean, thank you guys so much for coming on. It was really great talking to you.
Yeah, it was a blast. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
All right, you can catch Feed on Stage over at Feed on Stage on YouTube. We briefly mentioned Bochi. Got a great Bochi video popping off right now about the adaptation. And let's move on to the next category. Bye, guys.